In other words, YB, what you are saying is that national issues would definitely have an impact on the consciousness of the Perak electorate.
Yes, I think national issues relating to the grabbing of power, it certainly has got a place in this coming election, the 13th general election, because all this while the opposition before in many past previous national election, they have been more or less highlighting issues like corruption, abuse of power, abuse of judiciary, and you name it. And probably this is the first time in the Malaysian history that a general election is embarking on the issue of grabbing of power in Perak, which has never happened before. So I believe that it is something that we can optimize, Pakatan Rakyat can optimize and use those issues to highlight that the reason why that happened was because of the policies of Barisan Nasional that have contributed to that grabbing of power. So all this while Pakatan Rakyat has been saying that abuse of power, bad governance, poor governance, high level corruption, we were saying that in the past general election. But this time, the 13th general election, we just around the corner, we can probably make them to realize that those are the after effects and those are the products of all these policies that it can create into the grabbing of power, into the blatant abuse and the murder of democratic principles in this country. Now those are signs of danger and signs of tragedy. So I think this election, I think we are having that opportunity to highlight to the people so that we can get support from them by using the phenomena of grabbing of power illegally, unconstitutionally, unparliamentary by Barisan Nasional against the Pakatan Rakyat government in Perak. So certainly I think we are going to utilize and use that as our drumming points for the Malaysian masses as a whole to be supportive of Pakatan Rakyat, inshallah.
YB, is there a distinct difference in expectations between the urban and rural electorate in Perak?
We at Pakatan Rakyat in particular past, we had conducted 3 surveys. Okay, now in those surveys, initially after the grabbing of power, because of these 3 issues which have been overplayed by UMNO, there was slanderous and seditious issues, and I must announce it now. Number 1, they have overplayed the fact that I am a stooge of the AP, and past have been subservient to the AP. Number 2, I have been more or less selling state land to Chinese lords. And number 3, I have been blamed as playing treason to the royal family in Perak. Now, so that has more or less UMNO has more or less succeeded to a certain extent in as far as the faraway Malay communities in remote villages. The urban and the suburban communities comprising of all the other 3 major races, I think that 3 issues have not been able to penetrate their minds. But they still believe that the grabbing of power in whatever name is still illegal, and morally not right, undemocratic, and whatever. Now, the differences between the local Perak, Perak, the faraway Malay remote villages, particularly those in the Felkra communities as well as Felda. Okay, in our survey, that it has improved now, because over the last 2 years, whatever they duped us to be, either selling of land to Chinese lords, playing treason to the royal family, or even becoming a DAP stooge, they couldn't prove it. So now, the recent survey that we did, that was in February this year, there has been an increase of probably about 3 to 4% compared to 35% earlier on, and now it has increased to about 38% on the Malay community. As far as the Chinese in the town areas are concerned, it's still retained and being sustained to an average of, I would say, about 80%, or if not more. So we are saying that the whole effort of Pakatan Rakyat in Perak now is trying to give a focus on the Malay communities in far remote villages, plus some identified Indian communities in some plantations, the downtrodden as well as the poor communities. So I think that has been simplified in our strategy to reconvince them that what has been duped on us on that 3 points was not true. And I even challenged them in the assembly as well as in the parliament that if you blamed me to be a stooge of the AP or even selling state land to Chinese lots and Chinese talkies or even playing Tristan to Tuanku, can you just please identify them? And even up to now they couldn't. So I think the Malay villagers, the Malay communities have seen that since you cannot prove that he has what you blame him to be, therefore now they have reduced their support to Barisan Nasional.
YB, what is the state of preparedness of the Pakatan Rakyat coalition of PAS, Keadilan and DAP in facing the 13th general elections?
I must tell Gilbert that as soon as the grabbing of power took place, that was in February 2009, we had been all along going on a statewide program to explain to the people what actually went on with all the videos that we showed them. So we were already ready at that time because our cry was dissolve the state assembly. And as you remember, there were several suits which were taken to the High Court as well as the Court of Appeal and the Federal Court on these issues, either on me taking that issues or filing those cases, or even with the Speaker YB Sivakumar. So we have been all the while ever ready. In terms of preparedness, in terms of the strategy that we have planned, I think Pakatan Rakyat is ever more ready. Now I must say that basically 93% of the allocation of seats have been finalized. We are only left with 3 state seats and 1 parliament seat, which have not been finalized. Now we believe that by end of June or probably middle of July, then we could iron it out. And deep in my heart, I wanted to make Perak as a first state where there is no grudges against the division of seats. To answer to your question, our state of preparedness in as far as facing the 13th general election is concerned is so much ever ready. We have good qualities candidate now. I must say that of the 21 seats allocated for PAS last year or last election, which probably will also follow suit this election, we have at least seven doctors, comprising of 4 medical doctors and 3 PhD doctors, and likewise our components, DAP and Keadilan, they too have got credible young candidates. Last but not least, we learned a hard lesson when there was a defection by 2 initially, then followed by the 3rd and the 4th, to make it a point that the approach now is more on which Pakatan Rakyat component can have the possible winning tickets. Now, if that particular seat has got a strong possibilities that PAS or the AP or Keadilan is contesting, then we will go for it. And to top it up, we are saying that there must be an element of winnability. There must also be an element of a local candidate who knows in and out of that constituency. And number three, the candidate must be credible. So those hard lessons that we learned, which had resulted in the downfall of the government, were things that we created as a lesson for us to prevent similar things happening. And I must also say that we have more or less devised a strategy and a plan that any list of candidates proposed by Pakatan component, they must make it open so that each component party will be able to crystallize and critique and comment on the background of the candidates. So this has become a very open situation now. If we believe that that particular candidate has got a case, then we probably will propose to our component alliance in Pakatan Rakyat to renominate a new candidate, and that has been achieved. And finally, we also have agreed the moment the federal government dissolved the parliament, then if the Pakatan state also dissolve likewise for the state seats, then all the 59 candidates of Pakatan Rakyat, comprising of DAP, Keadilan and PAS, will have a special session with them. We'll have a good motivator who will facilitate and explain to the potential 59 candidates what are the do's and the don'ts to prevent similar defection from happening or to prevent other untoward incidents from happening. So those are the things to show that we are fully prepared for this coming general election, inshallah.
YB, what you are saying is that there is a definite, critical, vigilant selection process in choice of candidates for this general election to prevent what happened at the last.
Yeah.
That's the situation in Perak.
Situation. Yep.
One more question, YB. Is Pakatan Rakyat keeping a close tab on the electoral rolls to ensure that it is phantom-free or inundated with other extraordinary discrepancies?
Well, it's a very pertinent question. I must agree with you that it is not only addressed to Pakatan Rakyat Perak. On that count, it should also be applicable to Pakatan Rakyat all over the country. But as far as Perak is concerned, we had given a lot of attention to the latest registry voting register, and we have already placed some objections during the objection period, where we believe that there were rampant registration of new voters. Number one, there were also suspicious transfer of voters as well, or you can just say that it's phantom voters. So as far as Pakatan Perak is concerned, we have kept a close tab and a close eye as far as the voting registration is concerned. We even had highlighted them in several PCs when we confirmed with the state SPR that suddenly there was a surge in the number of postal voters in several constituencies, which I think it has taken some attention by several quarters. So I must say that as far as that question by Gilbert is concerned, PAS, DAP and Keadilan, we have been very alert and asking our party workers as well as the machinery to give attention to those possible phantom voters that have been manipulated, so to speak, inside the voting registry and registration. Now, but there again, there are limitations to it. I think they can certainly do whatever tricks or maneuver if they want to. So these are the possibilities that we have been trying to think what can be done to the voters registration that would bring these phantom voters that we cannot anticipate at the moment. However, in as far as the existing ones are concerned, we are keeping a close touch and we are highlighting them to the media and to SPR when there was or when we discover that there are discrepancies in the voting registration list. Right.
YB, highlighting it to the SPR is very, very important. But do you get the desired results from the SPR?
Well, I think it would be really lucky if we can get a good response from them. And initially when we highlighted it, and then they will say that we'll look into it, we'll analyze and we'll see, because it is valid. And the objection that we raised, they were valid objections. But then again, from past history, we realized that when we highlighted those things, in several cases, real genuine cases in Terengganu, even in Sabah and in Sarawak, I think we were just talking on deaf ears. So on that count, Pakatan Rakyat is calling for a general realization on the 9th of July, if I'm not mistaken, where there shall be an assembly of 1 million Malaysians trying to give a strong signal to SPR and even to Najib that kindly and please do not maneuver in as far as votings are concerned. We have had several bad experiences, and I'm citing those examples not in the context of trying to emulate them, but the cause of the mass upheaval in the Middle Eastern countries recently, one of the very reasons was because there was a complete rig in the election. The election commission of those states, in particular Egypt, was subservient to the powers that be. That has resulted in these mass uprise. Now, kindly refer to those that we are calling on the 9th of July to send a clear signal to SPR that kindly be professional, save this country, and conduct a fair and just election. And let the Malaysians choose which government they would like to govern the state and govern the whole country. And I think that would be the fairest demands by Pakatan Rakyat. Okay? So I'm saying that we do not have any hopes in as far as trying to correct whatever wrong things that we have discovered in that list, so that SPR will change. But there again, we do not have an iota of hope as far as they would heed to our request. So we need to remind the masses that the election, in order for it to be fair, we have to go to the streets in a peaceful manner, so that this is our demands and this is our objective, to have a fair election so that the country will be back to its democratic principles. We shall be respected globally, and I think investors will have more trust and confidence if we conduct it fairly. So I think that is a positive aspect towards saving Malaysia.
Finally, YB, how would you rate or describe the cooperation and unity among PAS, Keadilan and DAP in facing the general election?
I think we are creating history for the benefit of the Malaysians, because never in the Malaysian history that you can see these three opposition parties came together. All the while we have allowed ourselves to be divided and ruled by Barisan Nasional on conspiracies that they have managed to divide and disintegrate the opposition. So this is the first time that Pakatan Rakyat is going to go on a Pakatan Rakyat platform, unlike the 2008-12 election, we were going on a DAP collaborating with Barisan Alternative, but this time we're going we're banking on Pakatan Rakyat per se. So that we believe can only be a success. It can only materialize if, had it not been for the good working relationship that we have enjoyed over the last 3 years. The several congress that Pakatan Rakyat did in Shah Alam and then in Kepala Batas, we managed to sign a pact which has never happened, I would say, even in Barisan Nasional. There was no alliance pact signed before, but again, DAP Pas Keadilan, we managed to agree on a common policy framework, thereby resulting in the Buku Jingga, which is again a blueprint. And I think that indicates how solid the integrity as well as the togetherness of Pakatan Rakyat.
YB Dato Sri Niza, I sincerely thank you on behalf of TV Pas for being with us in this edition of Perception. To our esteemed audience, wherever you may be, I thank you for being with us on this discussion, Perak in the 13th General Elections, with our guest, Yang Berhormat Dato Sri Niza Jamaluddin. Until we meet again next week, on behalf of the production crew of Perception, I wish all Malaysians, Hidup Rakyat, Hidup Pakatan Rakyat.